You are watching and listening to Bishop Brothers, a safe space where real issues being dealt with by real people are brought forth and discussed. Every week, the fire of love is lit as two 21st century bishops share the first century church message. Join and engage in the conversation, featuring grassroots interviews, book reviews, and God-inspired commentary. Here are your hosts, Aaron and John, Bishop and Bishop, Chief and Chief. But above all, they are brothers. Welcome aboard.
You almost need a, see the bonfire going.
Yeah.
The bonfire.
You see what's in there.
Yeah, it's like books.
It's a book. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really
very timely right now.
Yeah, timely.
Unfortunately,
and, it's just show you the path that unfortunately we're walking down and we're going down and I was talking to somebody else today. You have to open your eyes and see it and quit trying to turn away from it and understand that. I really believe when the thrones of the beginning of the collapse of the empire. Yeah. Because when you look at some abandoned books, when you look throughout history, this is where it really gets, dangerous because when you start saying now we're going to regulate books and we're going to talk about, silly arguments and false equivalencies and things like that, but it's a dangerous place, and I don't care what the book is about. If it's a book, and when we talk, I think we got to define book too. We're defining a book that's written with words on pages. Right. We're not talking about pornography. We're not talking about Playboy magazine, hustlers on bookshelves of schools. Obviously, I mean, come on, that's not, but you got to talk about this stuff because people come up with these false conclusions. We're talking about literature, books, that come from points of view, believe it or not, outside of the United States of America and their thinking. It's amazing that everybody don't think like us, right?
Weird. That's weird. But they're supposed to because we're the greatest country on earth.
Never been. We're the greatest country ever been. So,
of course it had to come out of Texas. Of course it did.
Yeah.
My people, my Texans. If you didn't know, there's a representative in Texas who has asked all the school districts in Texas to look at a list, 16 pages, 850 books, to consider them as being removed from the library. And when we get into why, it's always about the why. See, you would think, when I think, okay, books that should not be in a library. Okay, Playboy comes to mind. Okay, that probably shouldn't be in there. So that should definitely be on this list. It's not on this list, which is fine because that means the book's not in the library, right? But, when you look at this list, and really what it is anything to do with the Black Lives Matter movement, anything to do basically with anything, it appears to me, anything is anti-white supremacy. And they also put in sexuality with it too. So any book from an LGBTQ author, any book that talks about people in that lifestyle or in that situation, all those books get banned. And I'll tell you, a lot of my friends, were singing the praises of this guy. They would say things like, well, finally we're getting that gay stuff, and they didn't say stuff, but they said we're finally getting that gay stuff out of the library, and finally I don't have to feel bad because I'm white, and I want to address that right off the bat because there have been cases, there's one in Virginia, Loudoun County. Yeah. Where a lady said that her 6-year-old white girl said that she asked her parents if she was a monster because she was white. Okay. First of all, let me just say this as someone who is white. Even though when we talk about identity, I don't identify myself as a white person.
Let's quote exactly what she said.
Okay,
she said, a monster. She said, my 6-year-old somebody came to me and asked me if she was born evil.
Ooh.
Because she was a white person. something that she learned in history lesson in school. So not a monster. She said what she born
Evil. Okay.
That's a very strong word, right?
That's an extremely strong word, and it's funny because a lot of people who do not believe in God will use that language, and if you're an atheist, you don't really get to use that language,
right?
Because there really is no good or evil per se,
right?
So, but back to this young lady. See, so we're dealing with a couple of things here. Number one, who told her that? Right. Who told her that? And then number two, where does she get that idea from?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I guarantee you it wasn't from one of these books.
Right.
I can guarantee you that's not how it happened. It didn't happen that way. Right? How do I know that? Well, one, she's 6. Mm-hmm. And so she probably could care less what what's in the high school library. Mm-hmm. Okay? Number two, 6-year-olds do not get their worldview or what they think of themselves from books. 6-year-olds get that from their parents. Mm-hmm. So really what I'm hearing is her parents have told her that history makes her feel that way. Mm-hmm. It's coming from her parents. This isn't we're not talking about, I read a book about Black Lives Matter and it made me feel some sort of way. Mm-hmm. By the way, I've read tons of books on the Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. None of which have made me feel evil. Mm-hmm. Has it made me think about my position in our country? Mm-hmm. Sure. Has it made me uncomfortable at times? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that, friends, is the point of books, is to make you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. We were talking about this earlier. If we're going to ban books because they make people feel some sort of way, I better not ever see a Bible in any of your houses. Ever. Your Bible's got sex in it. Your Bible's got slaves in it. Your Bible's got people feeling bad for the things they've done in their past, for the things that their families have done in the past. So it's got everything in these books that we're trying to ban. So if you're going to say we should ban books, you need to ban the Bible. And that's my point. I don't want the Bible banned. Mm-hmm. And so I have, as a Christian, as a leader, I guarantee you this Sunday there will be no sermons on book burning or book banning. Guaranteed. Mm-hmm. I challenge you, family out there, find one. Send it to me. I'll give you $5. Show me a sermon on book burning. You know why? Because it don't fit the narrative. It certainly isn't going to get people to pay money. So no pastor's going to talk about it.
Yeah. I just want to... This is a very serious conversation we need to have, and I want to center on what the governor said, right? The leader of the state of Texas, whether he just is, right? He's the governor.
He's the governor.
He says a growing number of parents of Texas students are becoming increasingly alarmed at some of the books and other content found in public school libraries that are extremely inappropriate in the public education system. The most flagrant examples include clearly pornographic images and substance that has no place in the educational system. Now, you're going to read his letter is very, very vague,
very political.
Okay, very political. Mm-hmm. And what sources? Who are these parents? What information? But where are you getting information from? Is this a poll? Who are these parents? Because parents, as a teacher, I can tell you, parents are always upset at something. But who are these parents? And so, I would like our conversation. What are you banning? What are you trying to get out? Obviously, because that's what it is, not books, because you don't care about books, but you're trying to get a certain books out. You don't want a certain mindset. And the thing that's really, when you look at this case with a 6-year-old, that when you're dealing with people, particularly in this case, white people, it is strange now when white, I'm black and I'm proud. You're white and you're proud. You're Irish and you're proud. You got all this here. But all of a sudden now, when your whiteness is tied to Thomas Jefferson, the wrote the right of Declaration of Independence, you're proud.
Right.
But when your whiteness is tied to Jefferson the slaver, when your whiteness is tied to Washington the slave owner, when your whiteness is tied to things that you don't like, now we don't need to hear that and talk about that and read about that, because now my whiteness makes me feel guilty. This is such a foolish argument, because my blackness makes me feel a certain way too when I read about the Miller Passage, when I read about the enslavement, when I read about my ancestors' rapes. But I don't hold you. We can have this conversation. It's
right.
good. I don't hold you accountable for. I'm not angry with you. I'm
right.
not mad at you. Do I feel bad about it? Yes, I feel bad about what they went through. You should feel as a human being, now that you're in a situation now, looking back on it, you should, what German, let's just bring what people can relate to. If you're of German heritage, you live in Germany, and you read about the Holocaust that happened and what your ancestors did to those 6 million Jews,
mm-hmm.
you should feel not guilty. I think, feel guilty, but all are responsible.
Right.
You should feel a sense of connection to it. You should feel bad about it. That you should not feel great about that. You should feel a certain way that, okay, in our history,
mm-hmm.
these people made bad decisions. There's consequences.
Right.
And when you read about that, but see, that's it. That's the crux of the matter. It's not about what happened. They want to hide. They want to ban. They want to keep out of their mindset because everything
mm-hmm.
was all good. Think of everything as 21st century America. No, there's a 18th century America. There's an America that did things the wrong way, and it's funny how you want to be tied to the greatness of it. You want to be tied to the good stuff, but you don't want to be tied to the whole. If you don't want to be tied to why do your whiteness now makes you feel guilty because you read about it in a book, mm-hmm. and now you want to say, let's throw this book out so my child, white child, don't have to be feeling guilty or evil. Why do they feel evil about something they didn't commit? They're simply reading a factual event that happened,
right?
That from the ancestor they were part of, but they didn't do it,
right?
But you should feel a connection to the pain of it. You mm-hmm. should feel when I talk to a Jewish person, you've done too. I feel their pain.
Yes, it hurts,
and they should hurt.
Yeah.
This notion, miss me with this notion that they shouldn't read about it. Yes, they should, and you should feel a type of way. I mean, I'm not. When I read about the Holocaust, I'm not going to be smiling at. It's painful event.
Right.
God has to deal with those people who did it. That's in God's hand.
Right.
But this notion that I don't feel bad about what they done. I don't feel bad. Okay, remember when I tell you about being stubborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I tell God all the time my prayers and not to be stubborn. Okay, so I used to put all the blame on the Africans getting stolen from the country from Europeans, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I dug deeper, right, and read a book and said, hold on, Europeans did their part, but Africans, so you don't like this kind, was part of it too.
Yeah.
So I had to recalibrate my thinking and say, you know what, it just wasn't all on one side.
Right.
Africans played a huge role in my ancestors being sold into slavery in this country. That's just a fact. That makes me feel bad.
Right.
And don't get it twisted. It don't make me feel better because not only European did it just made me feel because it was just more than one party. My
mm-hmm.
mind had because I read a book. Y'all don't feel me. My mind had to open up to just more than just one thing. No, it was a lot of hands. Mm-hmm. My grandmother said there's a lot of hands in this pot.
Right.
And it messes things up. And so I had to open my mind because the book said, okay, no, it's just when Europeans, their own people sold them out. This is what I learned from book reading. This is what I learned from studying. We talk about all the time, studying context. But because I know that now, I still love my people.
Of course.
I still have my heritage.
Right.
Those people got to deal with God on that in the great judgment day.
Right.
But I know the whole story. I know it just wasn't Europeans just run over and do it. They had partners.
That helped. Yeah.
But I don't still love my ancestors any less.
Right.
You got the same story, I'm pretty sure, about your Irish heritage where people sold people out, but you still love. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's still happening today. I mean, Ireland split.
Yeah.
You know.
So when you read about that, you want to ban the book because now it's a side that this don't fit the narrative.
Right.
See, I'm talking about myself. And it was good when the Europeans were doing. And so a lot of people do that.
Yeah. Yeah. They absolutely do. And the thing about it is, and pastors, if you don't think this doesn't bleed over into the church, you're sorely mistaken. I thought about it this way. Can you imagine what the consequences of Scripture would be if things would have been banned? Right? If they would have banned things out of the Bible.
Right.
Right? So what if they would have banned any mention of the ancient Israelites killing anyone?
Mm-hmm.
They just removed it from the story, the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it affects the rest of the story. You know, Paul Harvey used to say that, now you know the rest of the story.
Right.
But it would severely affect if we banned the book of Daniel,
mm-hmm.
right? We would not have understood some of the things that happened later in the New Testament. Right? What if we would have banned every reference to the angel of the Lord, mm-hmm. who in my opinion is Jesus Christ in the Old Testament? Mm-hmm. Then how would we understand Christ? How mm-hmm. could he be eternal if there's no reference to him before his birth? Mm-hmm. Right? So it's really easy when it's stuff that you want counted out. Mm-hmm. But when it's stuff that if we applied the same rules to everything, mm-hmm. now you don't want it. Mm-hmm. Right? If I and I consider myself a fairly conservative person. Now, I have a lot of friends that would disagree with me, but I consider myself a fairly conservative. Mm-hmm. And are there books on that 16-page, 850 list, books that I probably would never read? Probably. Are there some authors on there that I hugely disagree with? Yes, mm-hmm. absolutely. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we are going to allow other cultures or other points of views look into history or into current events, if we're going to ban that, when the tables flip, we would be losing our minds right now if Mark Twain were banned. We would be losing our minds right now if Little House on the Prairie got banned. Mm-hmm. Losing our minds collectively as fair-skinned people. I'm telling you, if we banned writings from George Washington, it'd be over. There would be riots in the street, right? But when we apply those same rules to other people, it's okay. And to me, that is the definition of a supremacist culture. When you have the privilege to apply rules to other people's way of thinking, mm-hmm. and those rules don't have to apply to you, that is supremacist culture. Mm-hmm. That is what we would call here white supremacy. And this it blew my mind when, and that's why I like to share it. It blew my mind when someone told me this. Mm-hmm. I think it was you. You said, there are a lot of white supremacists who aren't white. Yeah. This is not an issue of color. This is an issue of power. Right? It's not an issue of color. And I've said this hundreds of times. No black person has ever made me feel bad for being white. Mm-hmm. If I've ever felt any way about my heritage, it's been because of me, right? And how I look at it. Mm-hmm. And I agree with what you said. You should feel some sort of way about slavery. Yeah. You should feel terrible about that. That was a horrible thing for especially for black people, but that's a terrible thing for people who are white to do, right? For what this country did. It's horrible. But if you only one side tell a story, mm-hmm. you're going to get a lopsided version of history. And here's the worst part. Mm-hmm. And we're fighting this in the church right now because people won't preach the Old Testament. They won't talk about, they want to stick with Revelation and the Gospels, which are great. Here's what happens. Because you don't talk about those things, when they do get revealed, now you've lied to me, mm-hmm. right? And I think what is happening right now in our culture is from all walks of life, especially younger generations, they're picking up books with other points of view. Mm-hmm. They're looking at this stuff and they're asking the question, why didn't you tell me about that from the pulpit? Why didn't you tell me about that from the history class? Why am I just hearing about it now at age 25 in a book? Why? Mm-hmm. And people are losing their minds because their narrative of history is now being challenged, and it's being shown to be lopsided and in many cases false.
This is a making of a cult society. This is, we talking about banning books, we talking about religion, because this is how where cult society thrive. The number one tool of white supremacist society, any type of oppressive society, occultist society, is the uneducated and illiterate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
People
needs it to thrive.
You talking about. I always talk about slaveholder religion. Mm-hmm. You know when I found out about slaveholder religion? I was studying, and I was studying sermons. Mm-hmm. So I'm studying sermon, and I was studying. I was looking up the religion of doing slavery. Mm. You know what popped up? A sermon from a pastor, a white pastor, who was preaching a sermon justifying slavery. Now, you would think, thank God that wasn't banned. Mm-hmm. Because I'm reading a primary source as somebody in the moment actually standing up and saying before people that slavery is okay, it's all right, it's ordained of God. And then if you look at the sermon, here's why. He had his points out in sermon. And I'm reading all them points, and it was just, people believe this. But the point of the matter is, if I hadn't been studying, if you would have trashed that, y'all don't feel me, I wouldn't have never, okay, I read this 10 years ago. It wasn't going to change the fact that he preached it.
That's right.
People believed it.
Yeah.
But now, when I talk about things, I can give you context of why I'm saying. Bishop, why are you talking about slavery? I can reference you to that source.
Yes.
This man preached it. That's what a primary source is. Yes. This man preached the sermon. Ain't something I'm coming up with because I'm an angry black man. This is what he preached.
Right, I didn't come up with this.
This is his words, contextually, what he preached in 18, whatever it was, about the justification of American slavery by pastors. I can't think of his name right now. Those are his words. And so I needed, if you ban that, because I'm going to feel bad about it, think about it, which I do. You sitting up there, right. I'm trying to bring it home. Yeah. You sitting up there, I'm reading a sermon, a book, text, that's in the library, a source that you can have any theological, that's there, right? Yeah. About a sermon about a man justifying the enslavement of my ancestors. You don't think that made me feel bad? You probably feel bad for him, but you still gonna. It's not guilt. Mix me with the guilt because you don't feel guilty. It's obviously you're gonna feel bad about because
you feel uncomfortable.
You as a theologian now, and you know that that's straight out not bad. That's what you call trash.
Trash. Yep. Straight out of context.
That don't need to be burned up. Yep. It needs to be kept
and studied.
Yes. To show error. Mm-hmm. But the cultists want to keep you away from books, want to keep you because they don't want you studying history because they want to control you. And this is why this is fascist, this is Nazism, this is all that white supremacy because they want, I can show you pictures of them burning books. But, it wasn't just crackpot people doing it. It was the government.
Yes.
The reason why we have this, why is it big about the conversation? Because this is the government of Texas, not some crackpots that want to burn some books in the back, down in
their
backyard. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the government is saying. Right. Now we're on dangerous territory.
Yes.
Nothing happened in Germany. It wasn't the German government at that time, not the government, burned and banned books.
Yep. And you know what, pastors, if you read this and you're just like, well, it don't affect me. The Bible's not getting banned. I'm not gonna. It's not my pig, not my farm. I'm not gonna get involved. You are doing exactly what the people of Germany, the majority, not everybody, because there's Dietrich Bonhoeffer. There were some people who stood up, but you are doing exactly what those people did.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it happen because it's not affecting me until it does affect you.
But what's the stop? There's no rational argument that you can tell me that would stop. How many times we heard that the last person that was in office, he's gonna stop. He's gonna go for it.
Yep. No.
I'm shocked.
I'm shocked. He won't go any further.
They never stop.
No, that's the point of a cult.
Even the other side of different arguments. Oh, all they want is this.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Then they want this.
Then they want this.
Then they want this.
Yep.
I remember it. All they want is this. Give them this, and they'll be said, no, they won't. They're never satisfied.
That's right. That's right.
They want what they want. But people and what's frustrating to me is the reason many of you and your biggest problem is you don't know. It's people around here still listening to third grade science flunk outs instead of reading the history of vaccines. Yeah. Without realizing that some of our pandemics in history was only destroyed by vaccines. We never got the herd immunity. Vaccines destroyed them.
Yeah.
But you listen to your third grade dropout.
Yeah. On
Facebook, prophets lying and everything.
My prophet
telling you this.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
What source is you coming from? That? What is your source? But you won't read a book.
Yeah.
This is exactly what they want. And what they want to control what you read, and they want the narrative to be controlled. The greatest, I always say, the greatest thing that America has always done, they in the human history, I say, of narrative craft. Let me create the narrative because people are not going to read, they're not going to investigate, they're not going to research, they're not going to do the work, they're not going to do the heavy lifting. They're just going to believe what some figure say. And this is why doing it simple. They're gonna believe what some figure who they want to believe say without any type of sources, no research, no background. We just believe it.
Yep. And the thing that here's my big thing. There's 850 books on this thing, at least.
Yeah.
How many of these books do you think this representative has read,
or
these quote unquote tons of parents that are coming out of the woodworks about these books? You're telling me that all these parents, these librarians, these teachers, whoever, read all 850 of these books and deemed them not safe for by the way, I know some of you don't want to hear this about your babies, but a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, in a few years, they're going to be out in the real world, right, where no one's concerned with your feelings. So you would want them to know different ideas from different walks of life. That's besides the point. I guarantee you they've read none of these books. I haven't read all these books.
Right.
But here's what I do know. In the same way, they're just nonchalantly compiling a list of 850 books.
Right.
I'm always gonna stand against anyone who would do that. Right. And some of y'all ain't gonna like what I'm about to say. I don't care who wrote it. I don't care if they're LGBTQ. I don't care if they're black, white, green, yellow, blue, red. I don't care. I don't care if they're an immigrant. I don't care. We do not ban books because of what? It's not about banning books. It's about what happens after you ban the books, because it starts with the books. We don't even have to leave the last century to see what happens after books get banned. People. Read a book.
My thing. Okay, what about some redaction and correction? You write for Pantheon, right?
Yeah.
So if you write something just totally off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, have you ever read? No, most of y'all haven't read the newspaper, but yeah, they still exist. At the end, if something was wrong, misquoted, or source was messed up, they'll say at the end, this was changed, this was redacted in the statement. Okay, so this little girl feels feels evil because she reads some out of history about white people and connects her, so she feels evil.
And she didn't read it. I'm telling you right now.
I know.
This girl is 6 didn't read nothing.
But you don't mind that I have to read a factual that we know is a lie. So, you know what I read in school? If we want to go down this road about banning books, you know what I read in school? That the Columbus discovered America.
Interesting.
Now, we know that's a bald-faced lie on the everything. Are you talking about redacting that? Are you talking about taking that out of school?
Nope.
It shouldn't be. It should just be redacted.
Yep,
this is not true. But it still should be in there,
right?
Because you taught it for so long, and even though we change stubbornness, right? We change when we found out when we
had more data.
We knew the truth, but
we've known
updated.
Right.
Here is the issue you deal with. Now I'm going to go into political. You know why this is really shaking the nation? Who is the number one? See if you're not. Who is the number one supplier? Who's the number one purchaser of textbooks in the country?
Number one supplier?
No, the purchaser. I'm sorry.
Purchaser of textbooks. Well, it'd have to be Texas,
of course,
yeah. I mean, our population alone.
Texas.
Yeah.
So you think that they know, hey, you want to bring it back to Texas? You want our money? Well, I would say how they always get thrown in the pot. This is not about guilt. This is not. It's all about money. We want to control the narrative. If you're going to give us textbooks, you want our money. This is how it got to look. Yep. Let's just be real about the matter. Let's just be real about the matter. Texas is the number one purchase of textbooks in the. You don't think these publishers are gonna listen because they want to sell. They're not making these textbooks to sell on the shelf.
Yeah,
they want to move these textbooks. Guess what? They're gonna capitulate.
And you
bring check it out.
And you bring up an even better point. None of these books, these 850 books, these aren't textbooks. No. See, and they were real quiet about that.
Yeah.
See, the way when I read it, it made it sound like it was all these textbooks that we're using to teach the students.
Yes.
That we're teaching them this woke theology and this, I'm so tired of hearing that word. Because it's a good word. It just so many people don't know what they're saying when they say it. Right. I'd rather they just not say it. Right. But it's not like these are books in the library. It's not like churning your Black Lives Matter book to page 50. No one's doing that, Texas. No one in this state, in this country, I guarantee you no one's doing that. Yeah. No one. Now, if your child chooses to look at the book, well, one, I'll tell you this, as a white male with school-age children, if my children came home with a Black Lives Matter book, I'd probably ask them where they got it from. Right? Where'd you get that from? And then we talk about it. See? Because it is a reality of now. Whether you agree with the movement or not is irrelevant. It is happening. Whether you agree or not with the LGBTQ movement, it's happening. And if we do this, we just blind ourselves to everything around us, we're going to raise a generation of kids who don't know discourse, and they're going to be completely at a loss. They're going to be surprised when a riot happens, when someone's killed by the police. They're shocked. Do you know why? Do you know why they're shocked? Because they have no concept of history outside of the narrative. And we're seeing that last 2 years, people, with vaccine, all this stuff. We're seeing it. And it just blows my mind that people don't understand the consequences of not allowing viewpoints, specifically when you don't agree with them, into the conversation. And we're raising a bunch of uneducated, unready people to go into the world because they don't know anything but the narrative. And the narrative is false.
Because cultists fear critical thinking. They fear creative thinking. They fear thinking outside the box. They want to always control the thinking. Control what you think. It's a mob mentality. It is groupthink mentality. Stay within the framework. Stay with this. Again, no public school in the United States of America teaches critical race theory.
None.
Nobody has a book. If a kid is reading about a certain subject, they have went to the library and had the book. This notion that a kid shouldn't be able to go outside of and use their mind to want to read something. Now, at that age, between them and their parent, that these same people who's talking about freedom and now you want to control access. You want to limit access. You want to limit access thing because you want to create a narrative because of your guilt. Yeah. It is not the kids. It's because it's a lot. You fear the truth. The issue is it's like the Southern strategy. You fear truth. You fear another side of the story, like you said earlier. You fear looking at different points of view because you only care about your point. And this is how a cult rises and maintain fear, control, burn books, ban books, keep them out in the public square. Because as long as you don't have knowledge, why couldn't the people always say, the slaves could not read. It was against the law. Why? It wasn't just because they want. It was because if they got knowledge, things were going to happen. Because no man or woman is going to stay in bondage, knowing that they should be free. Let me keep you illiterate. Make a law to keep you illiterate. To make it against the law to educate you. Mm-hmm. These laws were for a reason.
That's right.
And the fact of the matter, white people passed these laws. Black people didn't pass laws to keep them own self enslaved and illiterate. It's true. Now that's just a fact. So, I mean, it just so. But the church is just so in the dark because you worried about the Bible. Are you so naive and so simple that you won't think they go out to the Bible? You talk about the Bible.
They've done it before.
The Bible have incest in it. It's got every form of bestiality. Anything in the Bible. You don't have to worry about reading them. Before this was even a thought. This
you don't got to read Playboy. Read Song of Solomon. Yeah.
In the Bible.
Yeah.
Right there. You can't get away from it.
That's right.
So we're gonna scratch those scriptures out too. Let's just to rip those out too.
Yep.
We've done it before. So you don't think they'll go out to the Bible?
I'll tell you this. They will just like I typically don't bring politics into it, but I'm feeling froggy tonight. Just like January 6th. Just like that. When the Bible does not meet the narrative, or the Bible does not meet what the goal is of supremacist culture, they will get rid of the Bible. They won't be Christians anymore. They're Christians because it's convenient and it's what they're supposed to be, right? When they start to figure out who Jesus really is in the Gospels, and they start to really figure out that the church was a social program, I guarantee you they will start to. And they're already doing it. Pastors don't talk. They don't talk about Genesis. Pastors don't. Rarely do pastors talk about the social programs of the early church because it doesn't match the narrative. Doesn't match prosperity gospel. I guarantee you when they have no use for it anymore. And this is what I always tell the Irish people. When white supremacy has no more use for you, you will go right back to where you were in the 1840s. When supremacy has no more need for the Bible, they'll get rid of that too because it restrains them. Because there are things in there that are restraining. So sorry. I mean, don't tell me the Bible. It's already been banned multiple times. So don't tell me they won't come after the Bible. They absolutely will.
And this is why people. This is why the Messiah mentality is so dangerous. Because the Messiah mentality is all wrapped. Everything's wrapped up in that being. You don't think. You don't read. You don't search. It's all wrapped everything into them. It's no way people are going to do things if they really understood what they were doing but because it's a mob mentality. And this is what we have. The country's going to we want to ban books because we don't want. But and it gets me. Governor, I guarantee you, these same so-called parents, because I wonder about, but the so-called parents, let me go check those kids' cell phones. let me go to their homes. They probably got all kind of violent games. everything going on. Are they feeling guilty about that? Are they feeling guilty about staying on PlayStation 12 hours? No.
They don't care.
They're addicted to this stuff.
Yeah.
So you don't care about that. You just want people to believe. Here's the bottom line for me with this book. You want people to believe a lie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say slave over religion simply just because I'm black.
Mm-hmm.
I am black, but I got evidence I can back it up. This was preached.
Yes.
I don't say things just because, on the Europeans, I talk to black people. Hey, Europeans did, yeah, but Africans are part of it too. Oh, don't get mad. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Because it's true.
Right.
Don't be stubborn.
Yeah.
But so read. Vaccines. I said, okay, don't tell me what your third grade flunk is on Facebook. No conversation with me.
Yeah, I don't care.
You did the research. Okay, then deal with it. But tell me you did the research. Read.
Right.
But when you read, when you want people to read, this is why Jesus was so powerful, because he knew Scripture.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't want you to know the truth. It's no guilt to feel. It's emotions to feel. But not guilt.
Right.
Not tied to anything guilty about it, because you wasn't there.
Right. I think in a way, the structure wants them to feel guilt so they don't feel what they actually need to feel, which is sorrow, right? Because if you feel guilty, then you can use the trope of, well, I wasn't there, right? And that's a fact. I've never owned anybody.
Yeah.
My relatives never owned anybody. But so I don't feel guilty. But what's wrong with feeling sorry for a situation? The reality is, people that look like me enslave people that look like you. That is a fact in this country. Why can't we just say, man, I'm really sorry that happened to your people. I'm so sorry for that. That doesn't mean that, I need to be punished because of what happened. That's because we don't want to get to forgiveness and we don't want to get to actually dealing with the problem. We cover it with this, they're just making me feel guilty. And if they're just trying to make me feel guilty, then I can argue from a standpoint of I don't have to feel guilty because it wasn't me, which is true. But because you're only dealing with that surface issue, you're not getting to the crux of the matter, which is sorrow, repentance, repairing the situation, which comes to another word that we really don't like to hear, but I'm going to say it probably every chance I get on this show, reparation, right? Because if we just feel guilty, we don't got to get to that level. And that's, I think, where we are as a country.
But that's what Heschel said. Abraham Heschel said, few are guilty, but all are responsible. See, as you just eloquently put it, see, if I don't feel guilty, then I'm good. But see, it's not about you feeling guilty. It's about you being empathetic.
Right.
But here's the issue that they want to erase that Heschel was saying. You're still responsible. If your ancestors did wrong, then you should do better. Because they did wrong.
And what's wrong with saying that?
The German people said, the Nazis did this, but we're going to correct it.
Right.
In our way. We can't change what happened, but we can do better. That's why they put the guilt card on, because they don't want to do better.
Excellent point. Yeah, absolutely.
See, that assuages my doing better. You're not supposed to feel guilty. David had nothing to do with what Joshua had done with the Gibeonites. And then Saul came and messed it up. But David was in the seat. And when the Gibeonites came to him, he had to deal with, Lord, why is this famine in the land? Again, the book. Wow. Why is this famine still here?
It's going to get banned.
Because of what Saul did in his bloody house. But David could say, why should I feel guilt?
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Yeah, but you're in the seat. Now you're responsible to fix it. You are responsible. But the problem is, we still want to have our Columbus Day. This is October. You talking about banning books, but you just celebrate Columbus Day, which anybody who's read a book,
any book at this point,
who's responsible, who's just objective, bringing somebody from Mars, they would say this is a lie.
Right.
But you just had a holiday, but you want to ban. But are you trying to erase that, which you know is not true?
Right.
There's nobody Columbus never stepped foot here. We know what he did. We know he was a terrorist.
We know what he brought.
But you still keep that lie going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't feel good. Do your 6-year-old feel guilty about that?
No.
See? Miss me.
Yeah.
Guilt?
Yeah.
But so I gotta look at it. So I'm supposed to, as an American citizen who served this country, I'm supposed to just accept that because I love the country, which I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I still criticize my country. That is fundamentally wrong. You know that is a lie. We have all the records to say Columbus did not discover anything. It's disrespectful to Native American. It's just disrespect. And you just simply know it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about ban. But you're not racist. You're not talking about taking that out.
Here's a pro tip. If you land somewhere and there are people there, you didn't discover it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
But see, no, they were natives. They were savages.
Yeah, but they weren't
civilized.
They weren't Anglo-European.
That's cat. See that?
Yeah.
See, they're lower.
They didn't count.
They didn't count.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, is that what you're saying now? Don't feel guilty, little Susie, because they didn't count back then anyway.
Right.
So that's what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's not little Susie saying that. It's you saying that.
Let's just throw that history out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying the same thing they said.
Right.
Your history don't matter. Again, you don't matter. We can do with your history what we want to do with it to keep the lie going, to keep the narrative going. Mm-hmm. And this is why we need books, because books get us to the true history, because somebody is going to write the true historic nature of something instead of the lies that we've been told all these years.
That's right.
And so this is why this is very important, because people, if you what else are you talking? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not talking about serious matters like this, because I just refuse to be a leader, pastor, whatever you want to call it, over people that if you're going to be around me, you're not going to be in ignorance. And
you're probably going to be uncomfortable. That's usually what I tell my people. You're going to be very uncomfortable.
You know why? Because
I'm uncomfortable.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I put things out because I want to get uncomfortable. I want to hear a different point of view. I want to hear people say, "Hey, look into this. Go read this book. This is how I found and discovered things that changed my thinking." Right. But the cultists, they don't want you hearing nothing or reading nothing but what they have to say.
That's right. And
this I know you're in trouble.
And if you have the mantle of leadership in the Church of God, your job is to have consistent leadership. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to sit here and say, no, you should not ban the writings of George Washington. Mm-hmm. No, you should not ban the writings of Patrick Pierce. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't ban the writings of Jefferson Davis or the Southern Baptist Convention in the 1860s when they circuit preached slavery, right? I'm going to say the same thing about an LGBTQ author. I'm going to say the same thing about any author. Banning books is wrong. Well, Pastor, you can't be for or against this book. I'm telling you right now, the banning of books is wrong. Doesn't matter who, because my leadership is consistent. Banning books is wrong. Period.
Last time I looked, can't you still go get a book written by Adolf Hitler?
Yeah, absolutely. I go on Amazon right now.
Why should I read a book? To understand his mindset that got you in that mess so it'll never happen again?
Weird. Exactly.
He wrote that book when he was in prison, before he rose to power. So you can read that book to find out the mindset of a monster, the mindset of a cultist, how they come to their thinking, how they rise. Why do you think people write books about Jim Jones? To tell you not to follow. This is the seeds. This is what to look for. This is what got these people into the place where they went to Guyana and did what they did.
That's right. That's right.
Do I feel bad reading? Of course, because you already know. Obviously, you already know the end.
I know what's going to happen,
but you still. Am I it's warning signs for me.
Yeah.
So I can look at these things happen too. So I won't have the same faith. Or I can talk to somebody I might know. Hey, you're going down this bad road. I read this book.
Yep.
Here, put the book in. Read this book.
Yeah.
This is what this person, I don't care. This is what they're doing to you. But see, that's what the cultists don't want.
Yeah. They don't want that information in your hands.
I want you to read a book about Jim Jones to find out how, so it never happened.
Don't read a book about Jim Jones. Have faith. Give me your money.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
But this is why books are important, because they want to keep you in the dark.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I just any pastor that don't talk about these things and just brush over this stuff like, oh, this just all right.
Yeah,
that's dangerous.
We've got to talk about it, church. Especially us in our pulpits, in our pews, we have to talk about these things, because if we don't, someday, and it may not happen in your lifetime, but it may happen with one of the young ones sitting in your pews. They're going to have to deal with this. And they're going to be ill prepared because you failed as a pastor to do your job and bring up the things that matter in the moment to the pulpit. And the burning of books, the banning of books, even if this dies on the vine, no book gets banned, it's still a problem, because the government is thinking this way. Mm-hmm. We're so big on our freedom. We love our freedom. We love our freedom until it's inconvenient, or until it's not it's not the narrative we want. Then we ban everything, right? Then we cancel culture. I hear all y'all talk about cancel. I've been canceled. They've been canceled. It's happening right now. Things are getting canceled. Knowledge is getting canceled, and the church is doing nothing, and that's sick.
Yeah,
sick.
This documentary about Kaepernick came out, so Netflix, calling them black and white. So I'm watching them. I said, I don't know why, but if you look at the documentary, whether you agree with it or not, still,
right,
based on his life experience, you can see why he kneeled. Based on his life experience,
right.
I can't put my life experience and his life experience, just because I wasn't doing it. But you're not them.
Right. You're not him.
Books and these documentaries like this help you understand why people do the things they do. Mm-hmm. It's easy to go, okay, he shouldn't have. Okay, that's what you're saying. But what's the backstory?
Yeah.
We all have a backstory. And I'll close with this. America, you spend all your energy trying to destroy your backstory. But you can't. Right. You're not going to get away with it. The governor of Texas, any of these governors right here, America's backstory will become before the world, because it is what it is. And you cannot ban that. You might ban a book. You might ban this. I remember the movie The Book of Eli, and it was about this book, right? Mm-hmm. At the end, he had memorized the whole Bible. Yeah. Yeah. Great. This is where it's supposed to be anyway.
That's right.
America, your heart has been exposed. You can try to ban all the books, but it's always going to be a remnant that's going to rise up, face death, to say, no, we're going to tell the truth about you. Mm-hmm. Not to make anybody feel guilty, but understand, this is who we are, this is where we came from, this is what we're about, and this is how we need to get better. You cannot get better in lies.
That's right.
It's just fundamentally, you can't. Until the truth come out. And, we as a remnant, us on this channel, and hopefully people saying with us, we're not going to let you get away with Texas or anybody. America.
Texas just happens to be doing it right now.
I don't care if it's a book about Satan, whatever, stable of Satanism. Mm-hmm. Hey, don't ban it.
Yeah, can't be banned. We cannot ban. So, thank you guys so much for taking time to listen to us today. Let us know how you feel. Let us know, especially if you disagree with us. That's my favorite. I love it when people disagree. It brings discourse and conversation. But we'll be around. We're being around. We're not going anywhere. And we're going to continue. We're continue to make ourselves uncomfortable, and by proxy, make you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And this show's not for the faint of heart. Yeah. I tell the people that attend my community, and I know I've been in Bishop's Church. I know, you gotta be comfortable being uncomfortable, and because these conversations are necessary, so very necessary. So, thank you guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Bishop Brothers. Make sure to visit our page, Bishop Brothers, where you can like and follow so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, please tell a friend about the show. The brothers salute you. Until we meet again, Godspeed.